Uh, Good morning. Before starting our sessions, we should know what is the solution and emulsion. We have learned about solution as a mixture of two or more substances in the same phase. It involved a solute dissolving in a solvent to form a solution. But some substances simply don't want to associate it with one another. An example, oil and water. When oil and water are added together, they form two distinct layers. This is because they are immiscible with one another. Let us look closely at what will happen when the two phases mix it together. They are tiny oil droplets dispersed throughout the water. We have just created an emulsion. So what happened if we let this emulsion stand for 5 minutes? The oil droplet was separated and floated. To prevent the emulsion from separation, we use emulsifier. Emulsifiers used to increase the stability of emulsion. As mentioned before in the last sessions, there is several techniques we used to determine the particle size. Optical microscope, scan electron microscope, sieve instrument, laser diffraction, laser dynamic light scattering. Actually, dynamic light scattering was used to measure the particles in the range from 0.3 nanometer to 1000 nanometer. In the following slide, we will show four films that display the stability and instability of the emulsion prepared under a certain operating conditions. In this film, uh, we evaluated in this film, we evaluated the stability of water oil emulsion in initial time point of view and in a field conditions.
Sorry, doctor,
Initial
the
time
voice. Can you please
oil
fix
to
the voice?
separate the water after the emulsion. Yes, is the film as this. We note that the water is compacted and increased. As shown in this film, the instability mechanism used in the process in this processes is coalescence mechanism. Actually, the coalescence rate increases with the increasing time. Another example of emulsion stability is metal working fluid emulsion. A stable metal working fluid emulsion was water droplet size of 20 nanometer was evaluated by drilling dynamometer at two cutting feed force of 4 and 10 Newton. The, the first film, you can see the cutting feeding force of 4 Newton. The main option using interwork emulsion is to obtain smooth drilling process by take out the sheet from the drilling zone. Another film also the same, but at high cut- cutting We note this is in the stability of emulsion under operating temperature. The last experimental test is emulsified diesel fuel. Stable water in diesel fuel emulsion with water droplet size of 124 and 31. There is two particle size and zeta potential of minus 48.4 was prepared by batch addition method technique. The performance of emulsified diesel fuel was evaluated as an alternative fuel at engine load of 1, 2, 3, and 4 kilowatt, as shown in the following film. This sample of emulsified fuel that is charged with the engine tank. This is the first engine load of 1 kilo, and this emission test. The same load engine. This electrical current from the engine was at a constant voltage of 201, 250 volt. Load 3 kilowatt. Maximum load of 4 kilowatt with normal operating condition.
اخو سليمان خير الزعيم سلامك الحمد لله.
Therefore, the stability of any system was evaluated by two steps. First step is visual step. Second step is analysis step. For example, using dynamic light scattering. First step, we must use visual step show a stable emulsion without any noticeable separating. After this, we make particle size and zeta potential. Although the last mentioned steps are important, the application and the stability of the emulsion and operating conditions are the most important. Back to zeta potential. What is the zeta potential? Zeta potential is defined as an electrical double layer exists around each dispersed particle or droplet. The electrical double layer consists of two regions and one plane. First region or layer, Stern layer, it is an inner region where the ions are strongly bonded to the particle. Diffused layer, an outer region where they are less firmly associated. The potential at this layer, as this we called zeta potential. The plan, sleeping plan, this plan is interface with separating mobile fluid from the fluid that remains attached to the surface. The magnitude of zeta potential gives an indication of the potential stability of colloid system. If the particles or of the droplets, dispersed droplet, have a negative value or positive value, they will repel each other and there is separating stability. So, zeta potential with value less than negative 30 or higher than positive 30 give a stable emulsion. There are three factors affecting the stability of affecting the zeta potential: change in pH, conductivity, concentration of the emulsifier, and oil, and the dispersed phase. Change in pH. From this figure, we notice that the zeta potential lower than pH of 4 or higher pH of 7.5 give a stable system. The other case, the other factors, conductivity, the thickness of the double layer increases with increasing the size of counter ion. Stability mechanism. There are three mechanisms affecting the stability of emulsion. First mechanism, electrostatic mechanism. It's coming from the presence of an ionic charge around the droplet. Steric mechanism coming from the due to the presence of non-ionic molecule and metal oxide. Electrostatic mechanism resulting from the combination of steric and electrostatic mechanism. Zeta potential measurements. Zeta potential is abbreviation for electrokinetic potential in the colloid system. Electrokinetic effect, there are four distinct effects depending on the way in which motion of the particle is induced. The first one, electrophoresis and electroosmosis, streaming potential and sedimentation potential. How is the zeta potential calculated? Zeta potential actually was not calculated directly. The value of zeta potential is related to electrophoretic mobility. Electrophoretic mobility was calculated by Henry equation as the following equation, where mu E electrophoretic mobility Z zeta potential, H viscosity, and F Ka Henry function. Henry function divided into two parts, non-polar media and polar media. Polar media, according to the Huckel approximation, if Henry function equal to 1, and Smolensky approximation, Henry function equal to 1.5. Finally, how can DLS measure the zeta potential? This is what we'll know by Dr. Ornov. Thank you for listening. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mahmoud, for the nice presentation. And before we go for Dr. Ornov, is there any question for Dr. Mahmoud Riyad? All right. Anyway, any question you can type in the chat box, and we can answer all the questions in the end of the presentation after Dr. Ornov finishes. Hello, Dr. Ornov. Can we start now, please?
Hello. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed. And thank you, Professor Mahmood, for a very wonderful presentation on different sort of the basic difference between the solutions and the emulsions, and various methods how you can actually prepare the emulsion, as well as means like different sort of explanation to the zeta potential, what zeta potential is, and how means we are measuring it, and when the solution or an emulsion is said to be stable. So I'll just keep my presentation very brief. I'll just share my screen. I think you can see this, the slides, and my voice is clear.
Yes, everything is okay, Dr.
Yes, okay, thank you. So as Professor Mahmood have explained that definitely for various applications, stable emulsion is required in order to sustain a required usage, or for an storage stability. So I would be just focusing on the instrumentation part of the nanoparticle measurement and zeta potential measurement using DLS or ELS techniques. So what we have is a light sizer instrument, which you can see on his screen, which looks like this. This is to measure the particle size, zeta potential. You can also measure the molecular mass. You can measure the refractive index as well as the transmittance. When you talk about the basic difference or different methods where you can actually measure the particles, so if some of you might have attended our last session for laser diffraction technique also, where we have seen that laser diffraction technique is mainly useful in measuring a micron sized particles. So when we come to a dynamic light scattering, the usual range of particle size measurement is from 0.3 to 10 micrometers. And also there are other techniques, of course, image analysis, sedimentation, which can be also used for particle size measurement, but mostly you can see other methods can only measure in a micron or millimeter size. In case if you require to measure something in a sub nanometer range, then only two techniques, that is transmission electron microscopy and size exclusion chromatography, are useful. So most of the times when you talk about a cost-effective solution for measurement of particles which are in a nanometer size, it has always been a dynamic light scattering technique. So when we talk about the light sizer series, as I have mentioned earlier, we can measure the particle size distribution as well as the particle size. The method, what we call it, is a dynamic light scattering. And in our system, what we have is a 3 detection angle modes, which is very much unique to our instrument. And also we have an automatic angle selection. So you don't need to input the angle of measurement manually. Automatically the instrument decides, depending upon your sample, that which angle is most suitable to work on. Then you have a zeta potential measurement. The even means Professor Mahmood, as he has explained, it is an electrophoretic light scattering. What we have is a unique patented CM pulse, which makes your data much more faster, means the measurement much more faster, and the repeatability and reproducibility is very much high compared to any other instrument. Then we can also do molecular mass measurement, which is the method is known as static light scattering, and you can actually measure the molecular mass up to 20 million Daltons. Transmittance and refractive index is something which is unique to our system. And for transmittance, it is using a light permeability, and for refractive index, it is focus dependent scattering intensity. This is an additional feature in our light sizer series, which no other DLS or ELS equipment is capable of doing. So let us quickly come to the particle size measurement, that is dynamic light scattering. Professor Mahmood also have explained how we are actually principally measuring the sub-nanometer or nanometer size particles. It is through the Brownian motion, which you can see on your screen. So most of the time when you have a particles in a nanometer range, the particles always interact with the solvent molecules, and because of that interaction, it keeps on randomly moving. When we talk about the DLS technique itself, we are actually measuring the speed of these particles which are moving with the interaction of the solvents. And when we capture that speed, we measure the diffusion coefficient, how fast those particles are moving, and then apply that diffusion coefficient D into this particular formula called as Stokes-Einstein equation, where your particles, we are determining the value called as RH, which is an hydrodynamic radius. You can imagine an hydrodynamic radius to be an hypothetical value, means like it is not an actual particle size, but an hypothetical value of a particle size, where it resembles, for example, you can consider a sphere moving with the same speed as that of particles. So most of the times, especially when you have a monodispersed solution, this is something which is definitely very important to know, that what is the hydrodynamic radius or diameter of that particular solution or those particles in the solution or emulsion. So the depending factor is, you can see over here, is the viscosity and the temperature. And this is a schematic diagram of any DLS equipment. This is basically what our light sizer, this is basically for our light sizer series. You can see we have a laser system. Laser is incident on a sample. Now, in sample, you have a particles randomly moving. We detect the scattered intensity of light from the particles. So the detection mode can be of three angles. We have a forward scattering, side scattering, as well as back scattering. Now this, when we talk about the transmittance is captured by transmittance photodiode. So when the laser light is scattered from the sample, it is captured through different angles and then combined in a that particular scattered intensity is converted into a particle size radius, as well as, or you can say that hydrodynamic diameter, as well as the particle size distribution. So when we talk about the data in this case, it is basically the scattering of the laser light because of the particles. And the basic difference here is that in this method, considering that smaller particles will move fast and the bigger particles would move slow, you would have a variation in the scattered light. So for example, because smaller particles are moving fast, you can consider that the scattering fluctuation would be very fast. Although in case of large particles, because the movement is very low, or the speed of the movement is very low, the fluctuation would be a little bit slower. The scattering fluctuation would be slower. This scattering fluctuations is then converted into correlation function, and through this correlation function, we are determining the diffusion coefficient. And with the diffusion coefficient, when we apply to this formula, we get the hydrodynamic diameter. As I have explained, what is hydrodynamic diameter? It is somewhat a hypothetical radius or a diameter where it can predict you the radius of a sphere that diffuses at the same rate as of the measured particle. So in some cases, in this case also, similar to the laser diffraction technique, most of the times you are considering that your particles which are present in the solution, they are spherical in nature. So you can see in this photograph, even if you have an elongated particles, the result what you are getting, especially the hydrodynamic diameter, it is considering that this particular elongated particle is moving as fast as this shown particle, spherical particle. So that is considered to be a hydrodynamic diameter. So that's why we call it a hypothetical diameter. So also you can get an intensity, volume, as well as number distribution from the data. So there are two basic modes. One is analysis method model, and another one is cumulant. We will come to that when we will have a demonstration on this instrument. So when we talk about the dynamic light scattering, it is basically used to measure particles with from 0.3 nanometers to 10 micrometers. And also you can get a polydispersity index using this. Again, then zeta potential measurement, which is also called as electrophoretic light scattering. As Professor Mahmood had already explained, what is zeta potential? It is actually the double layer of charge which is surrounding the particles, and the initial layer is the fixed layer of an oppositely charged particles. And when we consider the zeta potential, it is an addition of a surface potential up till the slipping plane. So, and most of the times when we say an emulsion is stable, whenever our zeta potential has a higher magnitude, means irrespective of the sign, it can be negative or it can be positive. But when we talk about a stable emulsion or a solution, it should have a higher magnitude. So for example, an emulsion, say such as minus 40 or minus 50 millivolts is much more stable than emulsion having a zeta potential of minus 5 millivolts. So this is a basic estimation of an stable solution or emulsion. So when we talk about the electrophoretic light scattering, here we are also measuring the speed, but in this case, we are applying some sort of electric field on these electrodes. So you can see this omega cuvette, and you can see this brown copper electrodes. We apply some electric field on these electrodes, and based on the switching electric fields, the particle moves. The movement of this particle is captured by the scattered light. Now from that scattered light, we are basically measuring the electrophoretic mobility given by mu E. When this electrophoretic mobility is put into this particular equation with the Henry functions, which are, you can say that Huckel, and as Professor Mahmood have explained, that for non-polar material, you always has to use an Huckel approximation, and for polar material, you have to use Chmielewski approximation. And when we talk about, when we input a viscosity at that particular temperature, we can determine a zeta potential of any particular solution or emulsion. So what we are basically measuring over here is an electrophoretic mobility. And you can see in this video also, depending upon the electric field, the particles, some particles are moving towards an opposite charge, and very few of them are moving on a other side. So depending upon electric field, your particles will have a movement. So this is what we have, something which is unique, which is a patented technology called continuously monitored phase analysis light scattering. So what we have over here is laser is incident on on our sample, and part of this laser intensity goes towards the modulator. Now this modulator keeps on moving with the different at a different distances, and based on that, some sort of Doppler shift is introduced onto the laser beam. Now, when it interacts with the scattered laser light from the particles, there is a constructive as well as destructive interference. And based on that constructive and destructive interference, you can get a scattering frequency. So you can see over here, this is a sample scattering frequency, and this is something which is a frequency from a modulator detector or a modulator detector. So what we have done here, which is unique, is we have introduced a modulator detector so that simultaneously you can take a trace, monitor traces or Doppler shift traces introduced by the modulator, and also at the same time you can get the sample data from it. So based on that, your the measurement what you have becomes very much more faster. Also, one of the unique feature what you can do is a pH measurement, pH based measurement. So definitely the charge on the particle or the zeta potential will vary with respect to different pH values, and based on that you can actually determine the isoelectric point, which is very important for different applications, which is basically a pH value at which the zeta potential value is 0. So you can actually plot these sort of graphs where your zeta potential is varying with respect to different pH values. Another measurement what we can do is the molecular mass measurement, which is also called as static light scattering. Now this is what we do is through some sort of regression analysis. So we call it a Debye plot. So what we do in molecular mass measurement, we take different sort of concentrations of the same solution. We measure the intensity of that those solution, and when we plot it on concentration and versus Kc by delta R curve, you can see this linear curve, and the Debye equation what states is this, which is an equation of a straight line, where you can see the intercept. If you compare it with the y is equals to mx plus c, you can see the intercept, which is c, is given by the inverse of the molecular mass. So you can take the intercept of it, inverse it, and you can get a molecular mass of that particular system. Also, another thing which is very crucial with this particular measurement is this second viral coefficient A2. Now A2 do have a significance which also gives you an idea about agglomeration or coalescence in your particular solution or emulsion by giving a different value of slope. So the A2, which is basically the slope of the straight line, in case if your second viral coefficient is greater than 0, then you can say emulsion or your solution is very stable, means the particles or the emulsion particles are more attracted towards the solvent rather than to each other. And so the degree of coalescence or any sort of Ostwald ripening in this case would be very less. In case if your A2, that is second viral coefficient, is equal to 0, that would mean that the particles are equally attracted to the solvent as well as to each other. So you can say that as far as the storage stability of these solutions or emulsions are concerned, it is not as good as in case if you have a positive second viral coefficient. And in case if you have A2 which is lesser than 0, then definitely your solution or emulsion do have a tendency to for aggregation. That means whatever emulsion you are having, that is not a stable one. Another method what we have is in refractive index measurement, which is basically for a solvent, which is not for the material or the particles itself, and it is based on simple, you may say, chemio means a regression analysis, I would say. So in this case, what you have is you have a different standards. You run those standards, and then you run an unknown sample, and what you are doing is you are applying that scattered intensity of that unknown sample onto this regression line. So you can see over here, in case if your measured data falls in between Galdiner and ethanol, you can accurately say
Dr. Ornov, can you unmute the microphone, please? Dr. Ornov, can you please unmute the microphone?
okay. So thank you. Yeah, now I think you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine. So sure, I will share again the application part. So when we talk about application, so you have a various applications, of course. You have a pharma application, chemicals, food and beverages, heavy industry and petro, wastewater, pulp and paper, electronics. So let us take a pharma example in pharma application. So for example, in case of R&D as well as quality control, it is very much important to accurately know the particle size as well as the zeta potential, the stability of an emulsion, because as I have explained, means like in my last session also, that basically when you talk about pharma application, the dissolution rate is very important, and that is dependent upon the particle size. And zeta potential in some way will give you an idea about the storage stability of that particular medicine that you have. So this is just an example of intravenous emulsion, an injectable emulsions for basically for treatment. So when you talk about US Pharmacopoeia actually defines that in any intravenous emulsions, the fat droplet should be lesser than 5 micrometers. So it becomes an extreme importance to determine the particle size of those type of emulsions in order to validate that particular medicine or a drug. So when we talk, what we have done, we have measured the intravenous emulsion. That is also an injectable which we use for injections. And you can see over here we have tested one intravenous emulsion, and you can see the particle hydrodynamic diameter, which is somewhat around 299 nanometers as well as 229 nanometers. So which is an acceptable value of particle size when we talk about different injectable materials. Another application what you have is in heavy industry and petro. So when we talk about zeta potential is of bitumen emulsion, which is definitely very much important in order to determine the storage stability of that bitumen emulsion, be it anionic or be it cationic. So what we have done is a temperature dependent study. So what you have, you can see over here. Can you hear me? Yeah, I think.
Yes, we can, Doctor.
Okay, fine, sure, thank you. So yeah, so in this case, what you can see over here is a temperature dependent studies, because most of the times when bitumen emulsion is stored, it is probably stored at a lower temperature than at an application site. The temperature increases substantially. So what we have is, say we have done a temperature dependent where we have tested it at 25 degrees Celsius, then we have tested it at 45, then we have tested it at 65, and then again at 25 to see the stability of those emulsions. So here you can see over here the values. So we have different samples, and for all samples, the stability looks quite good. But for sample one, it is you can say much more higher, because you can see over here the magnitude of the zeta potential is higher in case of sample one than compared to sample 4. But usually, as per the definition of a good stable emulsion, you can say that higher means whatever emulsion you have, which is having a higher magnitude than 30, is stable. So you can say that all these 4 samples are stable, even at a various, or even if they go through different temperature zones. Then we have a chemical applications for TiO2. TiO2 is an example where definitely, because TiO2 pigments are basically used for paints and cosmetics. So when we talk about these pigments, of course, the particle size itself will give you an idea about the finish of that particular paint, or say nail polish or something, because definitely the texture, or in case if you have a finish of that particular paint would be dependent on the particle size. So what we have done is we have measured the TiO2 particle in MEK concentration just to see the pigment size of that particular paint. And you can see over here the hydrodynamic diameter of that is 288 in nano ranges, which would definitely give you a very means I would say lustrous type of finish of your paint. So also one more thing to add, in this case, most of the paint or TiO2 pigments, when we talk about, they are highly turbid, and our system is very much capable of measuring a highly turbid samples. Another example is a wastewater treatment. So most of the times when we treat wastewater, we add different flocculating agents, and in order to flocculate and agglomerate the waste particles, the impurity particles, whatever are present in that wastewater. So here we have tested, you can see over here, different concentration with different wastewater with different concentration of alum. And you can see over here with different concentration, the particle size is increasing and zeta potential is decreasing. So you can see over here at 200 ppm of alum concentration, the zeta potential is around 0.1 and the particle size is around 2 micrometers or 3 micrometers. So this actually suggests that around 200 ppm of alum, the impurity particles inside the wastewater, they will actually start agglomerating. Means that particular solution would be very much unstable. They will start agglomerating, and probably the waste or the waste particles would settle down. Means they would settle down in the solution. now let us come to quickly come to the demonstration part. So I will just stop sharing. Now I think you can all see the video of the instrument itself. You can
Yes,
see
we
over
can.
here, so this is our Lightsizer 500 series. As I have mentioned, this instrument can measure particle size, this can measure the zeta potential, this can measure the molecular mass, this can measure the refractive index as well as the transmittance. So in case if you want to have some idea about the turbidity of your sample, you cannot directly quantify using transmittance values, but you can somewhat quantify or means somewhat correlate with the turbidity of the solution. So this is our Peltier system. So what we have is a sample cell. So this black region you can see over here is our sample cell. Here we actually put our sample, and this is completely Peltier control, temperature control. So you can vary the temperature from 0 degrees to 90 degrees Celsius. So even if you want to see an stability of an emulsion with respect to temperature, you can do that by using this particular attachment. So you can just click over here and this sample cell will open. And most of the times, in this case, what we have is a small cuvette in order to measure the sample. So you can see over here, this is our disposable cuvette, and we need to fill our sample at least say 10 millimeters into this cuvette. So these type of cuvettes are basically disposable one, made up of polystyrene, and also they are they can be used only to measure water-based emulsions, or you can say water-based solutions. So most of the times they are use and throw. You can use them and probably throw them. And in case if you have some sort of solvent, then we also have a quartz cuvette, which is means quite useful, especially when you have when you want to measure something in say some hydrocarbons or something. Again, then we have this omega cuvettes. These omega cuvettes are basically used to measure the zeta potential. You can see over here different copper electrodes. So the electric field is applied on these copper electrodes, and based on the electric field, you will have a particle motion, and from that particle motion, you would measure the electrophoretic mobility. When you apply that electrophoretic mobility into that formula, you would get the zeta potential value. So next thing is how to prepare a sample using in order to measure the particles. So I have this sample. This is an micellar water. This is a commercial item, which you can get it in any of the stores. So this is an ideal in order to demonstrate the particle size of or the zeta potential. So you can simply take a cuvette. So in this case, in order to for the sample preparation, you require, you can see the cuvette over here, and you would require a syringe. You can take some sample. You can open the cap. And you can just put some sample into the cuvette, into the disposable cuvette. So this is good enough. I'll keep this syringe. Then you can put the cap back on. So now your sample is ready to be measured. And most of the times when we talk about micellar waters or any sort of nano emulsions, you can consider the particles or in a constant motion because of the Brownian motion inside this cuvette. And based on the speed of those particles, we are measuring the diffusion coefficient. Again, for omega cuvette, the sample preparation is little bit different compared to the polystyrene disposable cuvette. In this case, you can see there is a capillary type of space in this particular cuvette, and your sample has to be filled inside it. And you have to make sure that there is no bubble inside this particular cuvette. So most of the times we do the sample preparation just take a new omega cuvette and then probably show you. So whenever we are measuring a zeta potential, we are always using these omega cuvettes. And you can see over here, this is the same omega cuvette with copper electrodes. And in order to fill the sample inside it, you need to put your syringe upside down and make sure that there is no bubble which is formed inside this sample chamber. You can just tap a couple of times onto this omega cuvette so that in case if there is some sort of bubble formation, it is gone. And then you need to plug the caps on. And that is it. So now your sample is filled in this particular omega cuvette for zeta potential measurement. Now I'll quickly switch to the software part. So let me share my screen again. So here we are using the same software for DLS technique, what we have done for a laser diffraction. So whenever your system is switched on, you can see a green mark over here. This green mark usually means that the particle or the instrument is connected with the software. And then in order to measure something, you only need to click on this positive sign. You can see various methods or various techniques which you can or various parameters that you can measure from this particular instrument. So here you can see the particle size, zeta potential, transmittance, molecular mass, as well as refractive index. Also, in case if you want to do some sort of in situ experiments, then you can do it by using these options, which is particle size series as well as zeta potential series or transmittance series. So even in case if there is some sort of phase transformation with respect to temperature or with respect to time, you can actually perform these measurements. So I'll quickly go to the particle size measurement. where I will just first put the name over here. And here you can see this is the only parameters that you need to set on this instrument. And based on that, you have a and then you need to start the experiment. So here, as far as the parameters are concerned, so as I have shown you, we are using disposable cuvette right now. The angle of measurement, which is whether we want a forward angle, backward, or side angle, it is to be decided by the instrument. In case if you want to do it by yourself or manually put it, you can just select whatever. Then you have an equilibration time which is of 30 seconds. That is a temperature equilibration. And these two are very important parameters in order to get the hydrodynamic diameter as well as the particle size distribution. So in most of the cases, we have three options over here as an analysis mode. Now this analysis mode is basically used for particle size distribution. You can see over here general, narrow, and contine. Now narrow and contine are basically used for emulsions, and when we talk about contine especially, it has a better resolution than compared to narrow or general. So in case if you are sure that your material is a polydispersed and you want to determine different population of particle classes, then probably you can switch to this narrow as well as contine. But in most of the cases, you can just go through, if your sample is unknown, you don't know the particle size distribution, then you can go ahead with the general analysis mode. Another key factor is this cumulant model. This cumulant model will actually give you an idea about the polydispersity index, as well as it will give you an idea about the particle's hydrodynamic diameter. So most of the times, if you don't want a second degree, I would say cumulant, if you don't want second order cumulant, then you can always go with the advanced. But in case if you also would like to get an idea about second order cumulant, then you can go ahead with an ISO. Then the measurement mode or measurement maximum runs for the measurement is automatically detected by the instrument. You have a different filters, which is actually an optical density of your sample. If you exactly know the value of the optical density of your sample, then you can input it manually. But in case if you don't know that, you can just say it automatic, that let the instrument decide the optical density. Also, you can select the different focusing points in the cuvette. In this case, we will select it automatic in order to, I would say, in order to make sure that the instrument does it accurately, decides what focusing point it would want. Another key important factor is the material refractive index and the solvent refractive index. We know this micellar water is a water-based emulsion, or I would say solution. Then that's why we always put water as a solvent. And also material is, we don't know what material is, although definitely it is a surfactant base. It has a surfactant and all, but we don't know the refractive index of that, so we can just click on material unknown. So the software will automatically take some default refractive index for this particular measurement. Next thing what we need to do is just click on start. After setting all the parameters, we'll just click on start and wait for the measurement to complete. So first it will stabilize the temperature, as we have put 298.2. One second. Yeah. So now I will just copy all the parameters again. So all the parameters are same. Now I will just start the measurement. So first thing it will do is stabilize the temperature. So here we have put 298.2. So you can see the temperature over here. It is in Kelvins, or you can also change it in degrees Celsius. So you can see over here, it is at right now at 25 degrees Celsius, and we have set it to be 25 degrees Celsius. After stabilizing the temperature, so it has now stabilized the temperature to 25. Now it will equilibrate for 30 seconds, and then it will start the measurement. Then it will adjust the focus, and after adjusting the focus, it will start the measurement. Now it is focusing, means adjusting optics, and after adjustment of the optics, it will automatically start the measurement. So right now, software instrument is trying to see different focusing positions, and then it will just go through with the suitable focusing position in order to set it. So you can see it has automatically set a focusing position to be 0.7. And when you see, this is the scattering of light, what we were talking about. Smaller the particle, faster would be the fluctuation. Bigger the particle, smaller would be the fluctuation. From this scattering data, we basically have a correlation function, and this correlation function is then converted into the hydrodynamic diameter as well as the polydispersity index. When we talk about different other parameters, so baseline represents this baseline of this particular sample, and of course, means like you can see over here the fit error. It will also show that this red line is a fit error. How much means it will automatically fit the decay, and through that decay it is giving you the hydrodynamic diameter as well as the polydispersity index. Also, this will show you the intercept, that is correlation function intercept, and these are the peak information. So when we talk about the analysis mode, the analysis mode, that is general, narrow, or contine, it is actually giving us this size distribution. And through that size distribution, you can actually get the area under the curve, which can be useful for various applications. Now you can see over here the hydrodynamic diameter of this particular sample is 7.37 nanometer, which is very, very small, and the polydispersity index is 22.3. Although you can also see a very small peak at a very high particle size number. This probably may be because of some dust particles, which can be there in the cuvette itself. Because I have reused this cuvette, because this is a disposable cuvette and I have reused. There might be some dust particle already in this cuvette. So you can see this dust particle contribution making to this bigger peak. The intensity, the distribution, size distribution, what you get is basically intensity based, and you can convert it into number as well as volume. And also you will get an undersize as well as the size distribution histogram. Now let me quickly measure a zeta potential. So in order to measure the zeta potential, you can just go to this add plus sign, apply on the zeta potential, name it. Here also you need to set which cuvette you are using. So right now currently we are using Omega cuvette, and since this is a water based, so we can use the approximation. Either you can use Huckel or Chmielewski. This is water based. We need to use Chmielewski, and in case of any particular non-polar solvents, you can always go ahead with the Huckel. The power adjustment is to be done, means it is to be done automatic, or in case if your samples are very much conductive and you know that it might be harmful for high voltage can be harmful for the electrodes, copper electrodes, then you can choose it manually. Otherwise, you can let instrument to decide it. You can also run the quality or the measurement mode. You can just leave it automatic, let the instrument to decide what particular measurement time would be good enough for it. And also you need to put in the information about the solvent. In this case, which is water, you need to put the refractive index, viscosity, and permittivity of water. So now I will just load the sample.
Dr. Urnov, can you please switch to the camera, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
So in order to load it, you can see this Omega cuvette. I have already prepared the sample. This particular solution is inside it. You just need to open this up and insert it inside. That's it. So that is the sample loading in case of DLS as well as ELS. Only thing what you need to do is open this sample measurement cell and you need to insert it. Same way you can do it for particle size also. So you can just insert it, and for particle size you can put this temperature cap in order to make a thermal homogeneity. But in case of zeta potential, you cannot put this cap because of these electrodes. So for zeta potential, it has to go as such. So I'll just put it over here and close it. That's it. I'll share my screen again. Yeah, so you can see over here, all the parameters are set. Now, only thing what you need to do is start the experiment. So first again here, it will equilibrate. Then it will stabilize, and then it will start measurement. So for zeta potential, it is always a forward angle that we are measuring from. And in our case, because of our cuvette, how it is made, we can even measure a highly turbid sample, which can have a turbidity, or in case if you have, or highly concentrated samples, you can say. So even if you have a 70% weight by volume, you can measure the zeta potential using these type of cuvettes. So that is something which is unique with our instrument, and yes, means like it is very useful. So here it has started the measurement. You can see the modulator frequency or modulator trace, and at the same time you can also see some sort of variation in the sample trace. So here it is showing a very low value of zeta potential, which suggests that this particular emulsion, what I have, is not that stable, and mostly because of the expiry, you can say that. But yeah, means like this particular value of zeta potential suggests that it is not as stable as it should be, because the value, the magnitude of this zeta potential is very, very less. I can again show you some examples of some zeta potential measurement. So this is for a food product. So this is for a food samples, you can say. And what I have done is, this is basically a cream. And what you can see over here is the zeta potential value for this. Here you can see for this particular brand of cream, the mean zeta potential is around -50, which shows that the cream emulsion, means like what you have fat globules in a cream. So in that case, you can see the emulsion is pretty much stable in this case, because the magnitude itself, when you talk about, is around -50 millivolts. That means higher the magnitude, more stable it is. Similarly, other brand of cream is this one. You can see another brand is having also very stable emulsion, but you can see over here it is a little bit lesser than compared to the other brand which I have already shown you. So this is around -47.3 millivolts, which also suggests that this particular emulsion is pretty much stable. Also, we have measured some particle size. So you can see for normal cooking cream, you can say the particle size usually what we have is around 435 nanometers, and for other brand it is around 315 nanometers. So this will actually suggest you, this will correlate, means as far as the particle size, and also if you want to have some information about the stability of that particular emulsion. Now another methods that we can measure is, of course, the molecular mass as well as refractive index and transmittance, although I'm not going to show you a detailed measurement, because definitely it is a time taking, because you need to prepare different solutions or different concentrated solutions for that. But I can show you the test template. So here you can see that you require different concentrations. Maybe 3 or 4 concentrations is good enough. And then you also require water and toluene as a reference material. And most of the measurements are to be performed in a quartz cuvette. So disposable cuvette doesn't work. And one of the important parameters that you require in this case is dN by dC. That is the change in refractive index with respect to the concentration. So in case if you have, or you can do some sort of hit and trial or search literature for it, but you need to input this particular change in refractive index in order to accurately predict you get the dBi plot, and through that dBi plot you can actually get a value of the intercept will give you a value of a molecular mass and second viral coefficient. So this is somewhat like a chemometric analysis where you have concentrations, your intercept is giving something, and your slope is giving some particular information about the value. Same way in case of refractive index, we have different standards. You can use water, ethanol, toluene, and then put your normal unknown sample, and this will give you a intensity trace with respect to different standards. And based on that, when you run your unknown sample, it will means put it into that particular regression curve, and from that regression curve you refractive index of the material. Same way transmittance, we have a separate transmittance photodiode. So in case if you want to do some temperature dependent study or behavior of transmittance with respect to different temperatures, then you can use these sort of tests where you don't require much of an input. Only you need to set a temperature and equilibration time, and then you can start your measurement. So that is it for me for from demonstration part. In case if you have any queries, you are most welcome to ask. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Orno, for the very informative and interesting presentation. And I'm sorry for all that we have exceeded the time, but you have asked that you need more details about the measurement and the sample handling, and this was according to your needs. And now we come to the questions. If you have any question, you can raise your hand and unmute your mic, or you can type in the chat box. So there is no questions?
Okay, so anyways, means like in even in future, if you have any questions related to DLS technique or ELS technique, you can contact directly to Mr. Mohammed, or you can just get back to me. Mr. Mohammed can share my email ID, and you are most welcome to ask any sort of queries, means like even if it is application related, or means if you have something technical query, or means how instrument works principally, all those things you can just get back to us. And that's it. Thank you very much for joining in.
Thank you so much, Dr. Orno, for your effort and nice presentation. And thank you, Dr. Mahmoud Riyad, for the first presentation. And thank you all for attending the session. And we have something in the chat box from Dr. Omar Sharif from Ras Lanouf company.
Yeah. So I think yes, you can. Definitely, provided that you need to do multiple measurements, and you can see effect of means like de-emulsifier on the particles or the emulsion. Yes, I think you can do this type of analysis, and even you can determine the right concentration or something. Yep.
Okay, thank you for the answer. And we have another. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Dr. Omar. Any other question, please? Dr. Mahmoud Riyad, do you have any question?
No, thank you. I repeat this. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so in any case, you can just, okay. Yeah, means like there can be, but this can be a method also, means where you can get an idea, of course, but there are different methods for getting it, but yeah. Next question is, how will be the after sales service for Libya market? I think Mr. Mohammed, this is a question for you.
Yes.
Yeah, we always provide the best support to our customers,
Yeah.
of course, and means even I think Mr. Mohammed can give you a different references.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Nasser Mansour, for the question. Actually, we work in Egypt since 1976, and we have a service department, highly trained service department. We are highly trained in all kinds of instruments with Anton Par and other agents. We have big reference lists about the after sales services for companies in oil and gas and other sectors in Egypt and Libya. I can send you our reference list, and you can ask about the stability of the instruments and high lasting service, and you can check by yourself. Mr. Mazik, we can this technical in polyethylene. Can we use this instrument or this technology?
I assume that for polyethylene means like if you want to measure the, I assume that you are talking about the molecular mass. Then ideally, when you talk about the molecular mass, you can do that, of course, but the condition is that your particles should be, when you talk about even polyethylene, your particle should be like around 50 nanometers. But yes, you can somehow use it, of course, means like, and in case if you have a polyethylene particles which are in sub or molecules aggregation or something like that, you can do that, of course. But you need to be sure, means like what exactly you want from the system, what is the information that you require, because in case if you want a molecular mass, then probably you have to use a very small particle sizes of polyethylene. And in case if you want to see some sort of effect on aggregation or something like that, then probably yeah, you can go ahead with the DLS sort of measurement. Yep. But yeah, means like you need to be sure what exactly you want from the system itself. Yes. But yeah, there are various applications for this instrument when we talk about the particle size as well as the zeta potential and the molecular mass, of course. Yeah.
Thank you for the answer. And
Yes.
There are something else coming in the chat box also.
Okay, so any further questions?
Dr. Anas from Sapesco Company, Sahara Petroleum Company. Thank you, Dr. Ornov, for this informative session. Thank you, Mr. Muhammad, for the good organizing as usual. Thank you so much.
We will also collaborate in future. In case if you have any requirement, you are most welcome to contact us, and we'll try to help you with in our full potential, of course. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ornov.
Yeah. Okay, so I think there are no further questions.
All right. So,
okay. Thank you very much.
Mr. Salah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Okay.
All right. I will be here for any other question, and any question, Dr. Ornov, I can send you by email.
Sure.
All right. Now we come to the end of our presentation and session. The next session will be next Wednesday about density measurement, the entry to a new and more convenient world with density measurement as a replacement of the glassware of hydrometers. And by the way, Anton Paar is the inventor of the YouTube technology, which all digital density meters use until today. This will be very interesting and a very informative presentation. And thank you very much, and see you next week.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Mahmood. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sir.
Thank you, Dr. Nasser. I think this is good if you keep the WhatsApp page continuously for quick contact. Actually, this is what I was thinking about. خلينا نتكلم عربي بقى. يعني أنا فعلا كنت حابب إن الواتساب جروب يكمل لكذا سبب. أولا لأن يعني إحنا إن شاء الله ناويين نعمل يعني فيرجنز كتير من التريننج، وناويين نكرر التريننج ده بمواضيع مختلفة عن اللي احنا هنتناولها المرة دي. وهيكون برضو في انتر اكشن بين الناس، لو في اي معلومة، اي حد حابب يقيس عينة، اي حد حابب يسأل اي سؤال بخصوص اي جهاز، احنا هنكون حلقة الوصل بينكم وبين أنتون بار وبين اي شركة تانية. فاعتقد ان احنا هنفضل مخلين الواتساب جروب بحيث يكون زي بلاتفورم التواصل ما بيننا ان شاء الله. اي سؤال اخر؟ All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And see you next week. Goodbye.
Okay. Thanks. Goodbye. Yeah.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Goodbye. Thank you.